And away we go, episode 1299 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Thursday, April 9th, 2026, and the Washington Capitals remain alive in their battle to make the Stanley Cup playoffs. A 4-0 win at the Toronto Maple Leafs on Wednesday night. Yes, the Caps' 8-1 loss at the New York Rangers this past Sunday night was brutal, and we may look back at that loss as the fatal blow, but the Caps in the NHL's 2025-2026 regular season now have 89 points, 3 points out of both the Eastern Conference's second of two wildcard spots, and third place in the Metropolitan Division as the top three teams in each division make the postseason. Much more on the Caps, including an update on whether this season is winger Alex Ovechkin's final NHL season later in the show. Hello and welcome to this Thursday installment of the Al Galdi podcast, the most comprehensive show of any kind about Washington, D.C. area sports. Good to have you with us. 2 weeks from today is the first round of the 2026 NFL Draft, which will take place in Pittsburgh. Next segment, a conversation with a man who knows the NFL Draft well and who is from the Pittsburgh area, NFL Draft analyst, Tampa Bay Buccaneers analyst, and Pittsburgh Steelers analyst Jon Ledyard of Audibles and Analytics on Substack. Jon joined us on episode 1290 of this podcast to discuss what the Washington Commanders have in having signed Bucs unrestricted free agent running back Rachaad White last month, and explained why the Commanders should not be so quick to take Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love with their number 7 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. Well, next segment, lots more from Jon regarding Washington in the draft, a breakdown of the possibility of Washington trading down from 7 with a quarterback-needy team wanting Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson, and analysis of 2 premium positions that have come up a good bit as potentially being addressed by Washington at 7, receiver and edge defender. Wait until you hear who Jon has as the number 1 edge defender in this draft. Jon Ledyard, next segment. And also on the show, I'll talk Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles. So the Nats now have lost 7 of their last 8 games. A 6-1 loss to the St. Louis Cardinals at Nationals Park on Wednesday to lose 2 out of 3 games in the series. And to conclude a 1-5 homestand, the O's completed a 3-game sweep at the Chicago White Sox. A 5-3 win at the White Sox on Wednesday to conclude a 3-3 road trip. And the O's on Wednesday evening announced that starting pitcher Zach Eflin on Wednesday underwent right elbow UCL reconstruction. No surprise, but his season is over. And during our Nats segment, we'll pay homage to former Nats first base coach and former Orioles first base coach Davey Lopes. We on Wednesday afternoon learned that Lopes had died. He was 80. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. I, on Tuesday night on X, put up a post celebrating our rebuilding and tanking Washington Wizards, finishing with a bottom 4 record in the NBA for the 2025-2026 regular season, and thus guaranteeing our team keeping its reported top 8 protected first round pick in the 2026 NBA draft. And on Wednesday's show, episode 1298, talked a good bit about this. My post on X included the following quote: shout out to Brian Keefe for benching key guys, Trae Young for getting re-injured, Anthony Davis for never playing, and D'Angelo Russell for never showing up, end quote. A lot of feedback from Coast Watcher on X. Writes, Coast Watcher, shout out to me for not watching a single game in this process. Now go get your guy and pivot to winning again. Thank you for that, Coast Watcher. This hopefully is the final season of the Wizards' 3-season tank. There are several reasons to believe that that is in fact the case. A, the team this season has acquired Trae Young and Anthony Davis via trade. B, the 2027 NBA draft is not viewed as a good draft. C, the NBA appears likely to implement anti-tanking rules that take effect next season. So the Wizards next season pivoting to actually trying to win is very plausible, if not likely. From Remo Williams on X, writes Remo, this is the way. Thank you for that, Remo. Yes, this is the way. From Tom J. Mitchell on X, writes Tom, franchise is a joke, been unwatchable for years, worst in sports. Thank you for that, Tom. Are the Wizards the worst franchise in major pro sports in North America? That seems harsh, but I guess we can't dismiss that possibility. Never forget the two brutal realities with our team. The Washington Bullets / Washington Wizards franchise has not had at least 50 wins in an NBA regular season since the 1978-1979 regular season and hasn't advanced past the second round of the NBA playoffs since 1979. From Rob Bailey on X, writes Rob, tired of the tank. Seems like the benefits of the tank are never realized. How do people pay to see this team? I'm about 10 years older than you, Al. The Bullets were my first love. I remember the championship in '78. I don't recall tanking being a thing back then. This has got to end. Thank you for that, Rob. I hear you. I do. The Wizards tank has been lengthy and painful and so often embarrassing. But I do endorse the tank. The Wizards were on a path to nowhere until the basketball operations regime change in the 2023 offseason. The Wizards, under this regime of monumental basketball president Michael Winger and general manager Will Dawkins, now have a direction and have been very forward-thinking in terms of asset management. Tanking is a recent thing. It is fueled by analytics. As many of you know, tanking in the NBA was pioneered by Josh Harris's Philadelphia 76ers. Washington Commanders managing partner Josh Harris is co-managing partner of the Sixers. His purchase of the Sixers was finalized in October 2011. Harris's Sixers from May 2013 to April 2016 had Sam Hinkie as their president of basketball operations and general manager, embracing the process, a tanking strategy in which the Sixers embraced analytics. From Mike on X, writes Mike, I was looking at Tankathon. Even if the Wizards finish in sole possession of last place, they will only have a 14% chance of getting the number one pick and will have almost a 50% chance of picking fifth. Thank you for that, Mike. Yeah, so the current rules of the NBA draft lottery include the three worst teams from the regular season, each having the same percent chance at getting the number one overall pick, 14%. But how low you finish in the regular season standings impacts how low you can go in the draft. So if the Wizards finish with the worst record in the NBA, they can pick no lower than number 5 in the draft. If the Wizards finish with the second worst record in the NBA, they can pick no lower than number 6 in the draft. If the Wizards finish with the third worst record in the NBA, they can pick no lower than number 7 in the draft. So there absolutely is a benefit to the Wizards finishing with the worst record in the NBA. Remember what happened to the Wizards in the 2025 NBA draft lottery. The Wizards got the worst pick that they could have gotten, the number 6 overall pick. Our team's history in the NBA draft lottery is atrocious. The NBA draft lottery started in 1985. The Bullets / Wizards have participated in the NBA draft lottery 25 times. The team, over those 25 NBA draft lottery opportunities, has received a pick better than the team's pre-lottery position just 3 times and has received a pick worse than the team's pre-lottery position 11 times. The Bullets / Wizards essentially are 3-11-11 all-time in NBA draft lotteries. The 2026 NBA draft lottery is on May 10th, will take place in Chicago. What is going to happen with our Wizards? Hey, please consider subscribing to the podcast. If you're not already doing that, subscribing to the podcast costs nothing. Make sure that you never miss an episode and helps out the podcast a lot. And if you're already subscribing, thank you.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
So a lot of intriguing options for the Washington Commanders with their number 7 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the first round of which is on Thursday night, April 23rd. What we're going to do right now is focus on the possibility of Washington trading down from 7 with a quarterback-needy team wanting Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson, and focus on 2 premium positions that have come up a lot as potentially being addressed by Washington at 7, receiver and edge defender. And so we welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast, NFL draft analyst Tampa Bay Buccaneers analyst and Pittsburgh Steelers analyst Jon Ledyard of Audibles and Analytics on Substack. You can read his work at jonledyard.substack.com. You can follow Jon on X at Ledyard NFL Draft. Hey, Jon, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
The Substack is great, Audibles and Analytics, but an interesting combination, NFL Draft, Bucs, and Steelers. How'd you arrive at that combination?
So I can explain. I grew up in Pittsburgh, so Steelers fan growing up and everything. And so when I started my career after I graduated college, I was here. I covered the Steelers. That's where I started out my career. And then I'd always done NFL draft stuff. So started the Draft Network, transitioned to doing draft stuff full time. That was kind of like my focus, and that was still has remained my focus throughout all my time. But then I went and covered the Buccaneers after that, and was in Tampa Bay for 2 seasons. And so a lot of my following, a lot of my subscribers come from Tampa Bay. Bucs fans, they're out there, believe it or not. They get a bad rap, but the ones that are out there, they're faithful and they'll subscribe. So they make up a huge chunk about it. And so I said, look, most of my followers are Steelers, Bucs, or NFL draft people. I'm just going to do those 3 things. And now I do the NFL too with Ollie Connolly. We do an NFL podcast in season as well. We talk about the NFL at least twice a week. And so it's a lot of everything.
Well, very good. Congrats on the success. The Steelers have been a popular mock draft pick to take Ty Simpson in the 2026 NFL draft. The Steelers have the number 21 overall pick. My ideal scenario for Washington at 7 is the Commanders trading down for a bunch of picks to replenish the team's diminished draft capital. How possible is Simpson's stock rising enough to where a team feels the need to trade for Washington's number 7 overall pick to get Simpson?
Did Michael Penix go at 7? That was shocking to me. He went high. It happens. I won't totally rule it out. It would be a shock to me right now if that was how I went. But this position, things get pretty squirrely. I didn't think Kenny Pickett belonged anywhere near the first, and I know it was at 20, but he went in the first. It gets pretty wild pretty quick at this position. So it would be a surprise, but I can't totally rule it out. More likely, I think, is that a smart football team is just like, wait, Caleb Downs is still there? Could we actually get this guy? Sonny Styles is still there because people just don't think linebackers are really valuable. Could we get this guy? And I'm always on the side of be careful when you trade up. It's easy to convince yourself the guy you're trading up for is so much better than the next guy that might be there where you're drafting. Giving up bites at the apple in the draft is just not great process, in my opinion. So I'm always cautious of it. But I think if a special player like that was falling for whatever reason, I think the whole positional value thing is whack. Outside of running back, I think that you're getting plenty of value from a Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs. If they're falling and they're there, it's those might be guys I'd talk about making a little leap up for. But I do think you're going to be hard pressed to find a lot of trade down options in the top 15.
I would have no problem with Washington if it sticks and picks at 7 taking a receiver. The question is, which receiver? You on your Substack in your ranking of the receivers in the 2026 NFL Draft do not have a single receiver in the tier of, quote, elite prospect, end quote. You have 2 receivers in the tier of, quote, very good starter, end quote. Those 2 receivers are Ohio State's Cardinal Tate and Texas A&M's Casey Concepcion. You have 6 receivers in the next tier, which is, quote, good starter, end quote. Those 6 receivers, Arizona State's Jordan Tyson, Louisville's Chris Bell, Indiana's Elijah Surratt, USC's Mekhi Lemon, Indiana's Omar Cooper Jr., and Tennessee's Chris Brazzell. So your top 3 receivers in the draft are 1, Ohio State's Cardinal Tate, 2, Texas A&M's Casey Concepcion, 3, Arizona State's Jordan Tyson. The Commanders at 7 could have their pick of all of these guys. Are any of them, including Cardinal Tate, worthy of being taken at 7?
In a vacuum, I'd say no. I don't necessarily see him as your typical top 10 wide receiver, but this as well as I do, Al. It's just the reality of the class is what it is. You have to this just is a class. In my opinion, there are not many high-end offensive talents in general. Quarterback, wide receiver, running back. Other than you have kind of Love there. You have Mendoza. Then there's a big drop off Love, and then a big drop off wide receiver. It's more a bunch of very good to good starter types, which are helpful guys. You won't necessarily look back and be like, oh, these guys are bust or anything like that. But, if you're expecting Jamar Chase type of impact, Julio Jones, AJ Green, if these are the guys you kind of have in your mind, even on the level as a prospect, I know he hasn't played this way so far as a pro, but Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't see that level of ability, in college. Malik Neighbors, those guys aren't in the cards necessarily for Cardinal Tate, in my opinion. Now, I will say I think he's a good player. player, really good player, and really helpful player. There might be guys with more upside even than him in this class, I would say. And so it depends sort of your drafting philosophy where like, yeah, he's probably the best guy right now, but like if we're just going upside, like do we want to go a different direction for upside? Are we going to chase that? Like there's some guys later down the board that, man, if they land in the right system and they buy in and they got good structure around them, like Chris Bell is crazy talented from Louisville, I think. I mean, it'll be later in the draft for me. Chris Brazel, like there's some guys like that. There's really solid, reliable guys like at different points. So you can find talent at wide receiver in this class. What you have to ask yourself is like, what do we need in our system? And is the value what this player provides for us just going to be way more significant in this role that we need compared to the other guys in the class? And so that's where Tate, I think, is just really interesting because like he can actually like rip coverages. He can be your second guy. He could be your first guy if you need to, depending on what you ask him to do. And with Jaden Daniels, I think he'd actually be a really good fit. So I would totally get it. Like I said, you have to take somebody. Like you can't trade down. You got to take somebody there. And like he's a really good player who I think will translate pretty quickly to the league. He's a pro and kind of his approach. So, I mean, it makes complete sense to me. But I just think people have to temper their expectations to the class. If you're drafting offense in this class, you're just probably not getting a like elite rookie type of player.
We're talking with NFL draft analyst Jon Ledyard of Audibles and Analytics on Substack. You on your Substack in your ranking of the edge defenders in the 2026 NFL draft have gone contrarian. Now, as was the case with the receivers, you do not have a single edge defender in the tier of, quote, elite prospect, end quote. You have 4 edge defenders in the tier of, quote, very good starter, end quote. And so here are your top 4 edge defenders in the draft. 1, UCF's Malachi Lawrence. 2, the University of Miami's Ruben Bain Jr. 3, the University of Miami's Akeem Mesidor. 4, Texas A&M's David Bailey. What's your thought process in having Lawrence as the edge 1?
Yeah, I guess Dane Brugler did say he would be surprised, something along the lines of, I don't want to misquote him, but it was something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing, but that Malachi Lawrence will probably go in the top 25 picks in the draft. So I think the NFL probably gets it more than maybe where the consensus board, if you follow that over at NFL Mock Draft Database, is at. But again, there's no tier 1 edge in this class. You may have mentioned that, but like I don't see anybody on the level of like Abdul Carter as a prospect or Will Anderson as a prospect. Like those are guys I had with like those kind of grades, like pretty special talents. There's nobody in this class like that to me. But there's a lot of good guys in this class. And so you can make an argument, certainly. They have the same tier. I'm in the same tier with Bain and Lawrence and Mesidor, I think, although he has the injury flag and the age. And so some of that stuff I don't account for in my eval. I might not even draft Mesidor, even though I think his tape this year was unbelievable. I just think when you watch Malachi Lawrence, you see a guy that just like beats people in all kinds of different ways off the edge. Oh, and the traits are amazing. And the developmental arc makes sense. Like he just was a little bit of a late bloomer. So he wasn't on people's radar necessarily, but he's added 20 pounds of muscle in the offseason. He carries it super well. With that 20 pounds of muscle, he still ran a unbelievable 10-yard split, worked out great, like really explosive on tape, wins high side as a rusher, can go to power moves and access power moves when he needs to. I think that's really important. He sets the edge. He defends the run. That's really hard for most of the edges in this class. So he can be on the field for 3 downs. He even reduces inside a good bit for Central Florida. I think that's another reason why he's maybe off people's radar a little bit too much. He plays a lot of like 4-eye technique, and he plays like inside the tackle or tight to the tackle as a tight 5. That's not really like ideal pass rushing position, but when he actually gets to crank it and let it go, you're like, oh, NFL traits all day. NFL length, NFL physicality, NFL strength, NFL speed, burst, bend, or flexibility enough to be able to tilt the arc. Like he just has a lot of things going for him, I think, as a player, and there's a lot of dominant reps on tape. Like people couldn't handle him. Bain is awesome too. And I'm totally open. Those guys basically have the same grade for me. I'm totally open to kind of wherever you see it. I would just say with Bain, he's like a physical outlier in terms of like some of those limitations, and which don't bother me as much, to be honest. But when you couple it with the fact that we haven't really even seen testing from him, and he wins as a high side rusher a lot in college, that really does matter for 10-yard split and 3-cone and some of those things. Until I have those things, I'm not like totally comfortable saying like, oh yeah, this is a premier athlete. And then he just is going to have issues in space that Lawrence won't have. So there's just like more paths to me for Bain not fitting in the league. Even if you're just 1v1 pass rush rep to save my life, I might take Bain over Lawrence right now, in that regard. But in the league, there's a lot more to it. And I just think Lawrence has a lot more flexibility to his game.
Interesting. If Washington is like you and really likes Malachi Lawrence, the Commanders potentially could trade down, get more picks, and still get Lawrence. Final question. The Bucs head coach, Todd Bowles, a safety for the Redskins for 7 seasons, 1986 through 1990, and then 1992 and 1993. He was the New York Jets head coach for 4 seasons, 2015 through 2018. He has been the Bucs head coach for the last 4 seasons, 2022 through 2025. His regular season record over those 2 stints as a head coach is just 59-73. He had very good stints as a defensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals and New York Jets. Is Todd Bowles a good head coach, or is he a good defensive coordinator who isn't a good head coach? A good head coach.
Oh, man, I was expecting this one. I think Todd Bowles gets probably more blame than he deserves in Tampa Bay at times for certain things that have happened within games. I also don't think he's an additive head coach, meaning that I don't think he adds a ton of value as a head coach. There's a couple ways head coach can prescribe value. A lot of these guys, frankly, that I think give the most value are on the offensive side as head coaches, but defensively being like super innovative. And I think he probably doesn't get enough credit for it. He has tried some different things. I don't think he teaches or develops the traits or the techniques needed to do those things that well. So I think it leads to some limitations when he does try to be more flexible. He has not been able to communicate seamlessly what it takes to be able to morph defensively. The best guys in the league are like morphing defensively each week. And this is where the Commanders are going to they're having their struggles as well. Just like how much do we morph what we do defensively? How much flexibility do we have? They kind of BS their way that's not a shot. That's what they needed to do with what they had on their team to like pass rush production, pressure numbers the year that they made the NFC Championship game. And then they really had a hard time manufacturing that up front again. I would say Bowles is good at manufacturing some stuff up front, but the back end coverages and stuff just haven't been dynamic enough to keep up with where the league is going in a lot of ways. And so, guys who are willing to play more too high, guys that are willing to do more of that stuff and get pressure with 4, and maybe he's not the perfect personnel to always do that on the front, but I think like there just isn't enough quite where the league is going with Todd Bowles for me to I'm not super fired up about him as a DC anymore. And I think as a head coach, he's replacement level at best, I think, as a head coach. So great person, great guy, probably doesn't deserve the blame for specific game situations that have happened the way that the fans have. But then there's also not the stuff that's been a big plus too that he's given. And Jason Light has led the charge on most of the OC hires that have gotten a lot of praise in Tampa Bay. He doesn't take credit for that, but that's, behind the scenes, people know that and stuff. So I don't know that you'd even say, oh, well, at least Bowles hires great OCs. Maybe. But I think if Jason Light, not for his intervention, maybe some of those hires wouldn't have happened.
NFL draft analyst, Tampa Bay Buccaneers analyst, and Pittsburgh Steelers analyst Jon Ledyard of Audibles and Analytics on Substack. You could read his work at jonledyard.substack.com. Jon, thanks. All the best.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, going back to Ty Simpson, interesting piece from ESPN NFL insider Jeremy Fowler. The piece came out on ESPN.com on Wednesday morning. Headline, quote, NFL exec scouts on 2026 draft's most polarizing players, end quote, wrote Fowler about Simpson. Quote, Simpson is polarizing due to circumstance more than ability. His draft stock is all over the map. The player loosely expects to go anywhere from 10 to 30 in the first round, but it's hard to confidently project a home for him yet. Positional needs could push him above his grade, but enough scouts have a second-round grade on him to make early day 2 a possibility. Simpson's lack of starts is the primary concern. He started 1 year in an era when many quarterback prospects have 2 to 4 years of production. He played well through the first 2 months of the 2025 season and struggled late, end quote. An anonymous AFC executive is quoted as having said the following about Ty Simpson, quote, I don't think anything about him other than him being a one-year player is supremely polarizing. There's not a good history of it, but I think you've got to take each guy as an individual case. I don't think anyone expects him to come in right away and be great. If picked in the 20s, he'll get experience and reps and get legs under him. He's a good kid, a coach's kid, had a lot of good production and success, maybe not on the same tier as top guys, but he's still a player, end quote. So much variance in the opinions on Ty Simpson. How possible is his stock getting to the point at which a team feels compelled to trade up to 7 to take him? How possible is his stock getting to the point at which Washington can fleece a quarterback-needy team for a haul of picks? That is the question. Hey, whatever big event that you're planning, a wedding, a party, whatever, consider using a great sponsor of this podcast, cateringbyuptown.com. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Catering by Uptown is outstanding. It is a family business. It is run by the Pereiras, who are great Washington Commanders fans. Catering by Uptown is committed to meeting your every need with elegance and precision. Catering by Uptown takes care of every detail so that you can enjoy your event. And Catering by Uptown's specialty is weddings. Get excellent service at an affordable price. In fact, if you visit cateringbyuptown.com and click on venues, you could check out Catering by Uptown's premier wedding venues. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. That's cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Well, the Washington Capitals have just 3 games left in the NHL's 2025-2026 regular season. Is it also the case that the greatest player in Caps history and maybe the greatest athlete in Washington, D.C. sports history, Caps winger Alex Ovechkin, has just 3 games left in his NHL career? This is his age 40 season and the final season of a 5-year, $47.5 million contract to which the Caps re-signed him as an unrestricted free agent in July 2021. Airing on Caps pregame live on Monumental Sports Network on Wednesday night was a conversation between the Caps radio play-by-play announcer John Walton and Alex Ovechkin. Ovi said that he plans to take time after the season to reflect and consult with his family before determining his future. Here was the back and forth.
Alex, there's been a lot of speculation about whether or not this will be your final season. In your mind, have you made that decision?
Not yet. We're going to make a decision in the summer. I have to talk to my family, with Ted, with KP, Mac, and I have to make a decision in the summer.
When the time is right, what will go into that decision for you? What's the most important part of that decision for you?
Health-wise, obviously. I'm going to be 41 years old in September, so you just have to be smart about it, and we're going to talk to family and make a decision from there.
So yeah, the Caps' remaining games this season may well be the final games in the amazing career of the Great Eight, but will this Caps season end in the regular season or the postseason?
Ahead on the left side, some Boo Birds in the final seconds here in Toronto. The Capitals giving them that reason to do so. Leafs will send it far side. Ekman Larson picks up with 2 seconds left. Back up top to Cowan, and that's where it comes to a close. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Toronto. Logan Thompson with the shutout here tonight at Scotiabank Arena to keep hope alive for Washington. Final score, Capitals 4 and the Maple Leafs nothing.
John Walton on the Washington Capitals radio network. A 4-0 win at the Toronto Maple Leafs on Wednesday night. The Caps now are 40, 30, and 9. Good for 89 points. 3 points behind the Ottawa Senators for the Eastern Conference's second of 2 wildcard spots. 3 points behind the Philadelphia Flyers for third place in the Metropolitan Division as the top 3 teams in each division make the postseason. But the Caps are bunched in tight with a bunch of other teams and have just 3 games left in this regular season, whereas most of the other Eastern Conference teams fighting to make the playoffs have 4 games left in this regular season. But another great performance by the Caps' number 1 goaltender, Logan Thompson.
Taken away here, Dakota Joshua trying to get a little separation for a potential breakaway. Never really did so. Now the loose puck in front and a glove save. Stephen Lawrence robbed with a right-handed catching glove of Logan Thompson. That was a good opportunity for Stephen Lawrence. That was denied, however, as Thompson doing what he has done all year, and that's make spectacular saves.
Yeah, Logan Thompson, he started for an 11th time in 12 games, and he pitched a shutout. He stopped all 21 of the shots on goal that he faced, and the Caps needed him to be great. First of all, the Caps' number 2 goaltender, Charlie Lindgren, he was unavailable for this game. The Caps' backup goaltender for the game was Mitch Gibson. The Caps on Tuesday evening announced having recalled Gibson from their AHL affiliate, the Hershey Bears. Second of all, the Caps won 4-0 despite losing the puck possession battle. They had 20 shots on goal to the Leafs' 21. And per natural stat trick had 37 5-on-5 shot attempts to the Leafs' 53, including just 5 5-on-5 high danger shot attempts to the Leafs' 13. The Caps went 3 for 3 on the penalty kill. Logan Thompson now for this regular season, 56 games, all starts, goals against average of 2.47, save percentage of .912. Caps top line center Dylan Strome, he scored an even strength goal 13-22 into the first period for his 19th goal in this regular season. Also, he had a primary assist for his 38th assist in this regular season. Caps second line right wing Ryan Leonard, he scored an even strength goal 40 seconds into the second period for his 18th goal in this regular season. He had a game high 4 shots on goal and dished out a game high 5 hits. Did commit 2 minor penalties, a first period holding minor and a third period holding minor. We had Ilya Protas making his NHL regular season debut. He served as the Caps' third-line center with his brother, Alexei Protas, serving as the Caps' third-line left wing. The Caps on Monday evening announced having recalled Ilya Protas from their AHL affiliate, the Hershey Bears. The Caps took Ilya Protas in the third round of the 2024 NHL draft, and the Caps' third line of left wing Alexei Protas, center Ilya Protas, and right wing Tom Wilson was the Caps' number 1 line per natural stat trick in terms of 5-on-5 shot attempt percentage for the game at 58.33. Each Protas brother had an assist on defenseman Cole Hudson's even strength empty net goal 16-10 into the third period. Ilya Protas did commit a second period hooking minor. Caps top line right wing Alex Ovechkin, no points, but he was tied for number 1 on the Caps with 6 total shot attempts, including being tied for number 2 on the Caps with 3 shots on goal. The Caps went 0 for 2 on the power play. The Caps for this game had 6 healthy scratches. 3 Caps forwards were healthy scratches: Hendrix Lapierre, Ethan Frank, and David Kampf, who was a healthy scratch for a third consecutive game, meaning that he did not play for the 14th time in 16 games since the Caps acquired him via trade on March 6th, what was 2026 NHL trade deadline day. And 3 Caps defensemen were healthy scratches: Declan Chisholm, Dylan McElrath, and Timothy Liljegren, who was a healthy scratch for an 11th consecutive game off the Caps having acquired him via trade on 2026 NHL trade deadline day. Next up for the Caps are games against the Pittsburgh Penguins on back-to-back days this weekend. At the Penguins Saturday afternoon at 3 and home to the Penguins Sunday afternoon at 3. The Washington Nationals have an off day on Thursday. That is their last scheduled off day until April 27th. The Nats from April 10th through the 26th are scheduled to play 17 games in 17 days. Hopefully our Nats are enjoying this off day because they're not scheduled to have another one for another 2+ weeks. But it's hard to say how much the Nats could be enjoying this off day because the Nats now have lost 7 of their last 8 games, a 6-1 loss to the St. Louis Cardinals at Nationals Park on Wednesday to lose 2 out of 3 games in the series. The Nats in MLB's 2026 regular season now are 4-8, just 1-7 since the 3-1 start. The Nats for this regular season through Tuesday were number 3 in MLB in team OPS plus 131. The Nats had been one of the best offensive teams in the majors, but the Nats on Wednesday did not do much offensively. Just 1 run, just 4 hits, all of which were singles, just 1 walk, 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. The Nats got worked by Cardinals starting pitcher Michael McGreevy. He allowed 1 run in 6 innings. It was odd seeing the Nats look this feeble offensively, and I know that may sound odd given that the Nats are a team that has restarted a rebuild. But again, the offense had been really good. The Nats came into this game having scored at least 5 runs in each of the team's previous 6 games. The biggest bright spot for the Nats was James Wood. He remains hot. He is the Nats starting right fielder and number 1 one batter went 2 for 4 with 2 singles. That per Statcast accounted for the 2 highest exit velocities of the game, 116 miles per hour and 110.7 miles per hour. Wood in the bottom of the first had a leadoff full count single into left center field. That single had an exit velocity of 116 miles per hour per Statcast. That is absurd. James Wood is pounding balls right now, but the Nats for the game, just 1 run. During manager Blake Butera's post-game press conference on Wednesday evening, had these exchanges.
This is the first time in a while that the offense hasn't gotten going. Did you see something different in the approach, or was it more what the Cardinals were doing?
A little bit of both. We only struck out, a couple times. Yeah, we only 2 strikeouts. It was just a lot of soft contact. McGreevy did a really good job of mixing speeds. He lived in the zone. I thought maybe we got out of our approach a little bit. Maybe saw some pitches we could hit. And that's what he does so well. It's like, I think our hitters felt like they could handle everything he was throwing. They tried to cover everything he was throwing. And with that, we were just off the barrel a lot.
And speaking of soft contact, James Wood was able to hit the ball hard again today. 116 is the most that he's done this year, and that puts him kind of in a category with Harper and Soto and some high-level guys here in D.C. Can you put into perspective analytically about he can hit a single 116 miles per hour?
Yeah, it's impressive. No other words to describe it other than impressive. He just seems to get better and better every day. I'm really happy with how he's coming along as we get going here, and feel like he's in a really good spot. And he's able to do some pretty impressive things, as you mentioned, along the lines of Soto and Judge and these other guys that hit the ball really hard. He's special.
Yes, he is. As for the Nats pitching, so the Nats for this regular season through Tuesday were dead last in MLB. Number 30 out of 30 MLB teams in team ERA plus 65. The pitching has been a special kind of bad, and the Nats pitching in this 6-1 loss to the Cardinals at Nationals Park on Wednesday, not good. The Nats starting pitcher was Miles Mikolas, who signed with the Nats as a free agent this past February off having spent the previous 8 seasons with the Cardinals, and now he struggled over the last 3 seasons. Mikolas over the 2023 through 2025 regular seasons, ERA of 4.98, ERA plus of just 85. It did come to the Nats having started at least 31 games in each of the previous 4 regular seasons. So, Miles Mikolas on Wednesday allowed 2 runs in 3 innings. He gave up 5 hits, all of which were singles. He issued 3 walks. He recorded 3 strikeouts. He threw 55 pitches, 34 strikes versus 21 balls. And what stood out as much as anything was that Blake Butera pulled Mikolas before he finished facing the Cardinals lineup for a second time. Butera got Mikolas the heck out of the game off Mikolas having been quite bad over his first 2 starts of this regular season. Mikolas in the 10-2 loss at the Chicago Cubs on March 28th allowed 6 runs, 4 earned in 5 innings. Mikolas in the 13-6 loss to the Los Angeles Dodgers at Nationals Park last Friday afternoon, April 3rd, officially allowed 11 runs in 4 and a third innings. The 11 earned runs set a new record for most earned runs allowed by a Nats pitcher in a regular season game since the franchise moved to Washington, D.C. in the 2004-2005 offseason. Here was Blake Butera during his post-game press conference on Wednesday evening on Miles Mikolas, and then you'll hear multiple follow-up exchanges.
Yeah, he got to the lineup twice. His first couple outings, we asked a lot from him, a lot of pitches, a lot of innings. He did his job, got to the lineup twice, left with a 2-1 game, and wanted to get Lordy some extra innings today.
Just to clarify here, how much of the length of his start today was based on how much you had asked of him from the first 2 starts versus what you saw specifically today?
A little bit of both. Mostly the length of and how hard he had to work in his first couple outings. It's a long season. We need him to be good all year. Plus the fact that we had Brad Lord that we knew we wanted to get either 3 or 4 innings out of today. And then with the day off tomorrow, being able to get our relievers an inning each with an extra day of rest tomorrow.
Did you see any improvements from him today versus on Saturday?
Sorry.
From Miles, did you see any improvements today versus from Saturday?
Yeah, I thought everything as a whole. I thought the stuff was better. I know the 3 walks. I'm sure he wishes he'd get back, but fastball velocity was up. I thought his stuff overall looked better.
Interesting to hear Blake Butera say that part of the reason for pulling Miles Mikolas after just 3 innings was to get Brad Lord work. Now, I have no problem with that, but that's the kind of thing that a rebuilding team does. Pull a veteran pitcher early in order to get a younger, more promising pitcher some work. However, the Nats relief pitching continues to be a big-time problem. 4 Nats relievers in this 6-1 loss to the Cardinals at Nationals Park on Wednesday combined to allow 4 runs in 6 innings. Now, Brad Lord overall was good. He allowed 1 run in 3 innings, but he gave up a homer. He, in the top of the 5th, gave up a 1-out full-count solo homer by Jordan Walker to center field for a 3-1 Cardinals lead. Cianel Perez allowed 1 run in 1 inning. He, in the top of the 7th, allowed a run as he began the inning by issuing back-to-back walks and then giving up an RBI single by Alec Burleson up the middle on a 1-2 pitch for a 4-1 Cardinals lead. Cole Henry officially allowed 2 runs in 1 2/3 innings. He recorded 3 strikeouts, but over the final 2 batters he faced in what ended up being a 2-run ninth for the Cardinals, issued a 2-out hit by pitch and then a 2-out walk. P.J. Poulin came into the game in the top of the 9th with runners on first and second, 2 outs, and the Nats down 4-1. He, to the first batter he faced, issued a 2-out walk of Jordan Walker to load the bases. Poulin, to the next batter he faced, gave up a 2-out, 2-run single by Joel Pozo to left field on a 1-2 pitch for a 6-1 Cardinals lead. Nats relievers over the 3 games in this series combined to allow, you ready for this? 14 runs, 13 earned, in 15 1/3 innings. The Nats for this regular season now have the following relief pitching stats. ERA of 6.34, whip of 1.68, 15 home runs allowed in 55 1/3 innings, 35 walks allowed in 55 1/3 innings. All of that is horrible. Also, some sad news. We on Wednesday afternoon learned that Davey Lopes had died. He was 80, had been battling Parkinson's disease. Davey Lopes played in the majors over the 1972 through 1987 seasons. He was primarily a second baseman, but he also played a good bit in the outfield and also played some third base and shortstop. Is best known for his time with the Los Angeles Dodgers, 1972 through 1981. He, with the Dodgers, won the 1981 World Series and 4 National League pennants. Davey Lopes was the Milwaukee Brewers manager September 1999 to April 2002. But he, in this region, is best known for being a coach for the Nats and Baltimore Orioles. Davey Lopes was the Nats first base coach for the 2006 season, and then for the 2016 and 2017 seasons, he was the Orioles first base coach for the 1992 through 1994 seasons. Davey Lopes, in his MLB regular season career, went 557 for 671 on stolen bases, 83.01%, an outstanding success rate. My first year as a sports fan was 1987. That also was the year of my first baseball card collection. I don't know why, but I clearly remember my 1987 baseball card collection, which was quite robust and which was all Topps baseball cards. I was a very loyal Topps guy, including Davey Lopes of the Houston Astros. Rest in peace, Davey Lopes. No game for the Nats on Thursday. Next up for them is a 7-game road trip beginning with a 3-game series at the Milwaukee Brewers. Game 1 Friday night at 7:40, Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2 Saturday night at 7:10, Foster Griffin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 2:10, Zach Littell will be the Nats starting pitcher. Well, the Baltimore Orioles on Wednesday evening announced that starting pitcher Zach Eflin on Wednesday underwent right elbow UCL reconstruction. His season is over. Terrible news, but of course, we saw this coming. The O's this past Tuesday morning announced having transferred Eflin to the 60-day injured list in a clear sign that they expected him to be out for a while. The O's on April 1st announced having put Eflin on the 15-day injured list, this due to right elbow discomfort, which often is a precursor to needing UCL surgery, and sure enough, that was exactly the case. Eflin was coming off an injury-ravaged 2025 season. He, in the 2025 regular season, made just 14 starts, was really bad, and he had 3 different stints on the 15-day injured list, eventually landed on the 60-day injured list, and he last August 18th underwent season-ending back surgery, and now he's out for the rest of this season. The O's this past December 28th announced having agreed to re-sign Eflin as a free agent to a 1-year contract with a mutual option for the 2027 season. Get well soon, Zach Eflin. Meantime, the O's are far from clicking on all cylinders, but the O's did just respond to getting swept in a 3-game series at the Pittsburgh Pirates this past weekend by authoring a 3-game sweep at the Chicago White Sox. A 5-3 win at the White Sox on Wednesday to complete the 3-game sweep. The O's in MLB's 2026 regular season now are 6-6. Now, the O's in this series were not dominant, but they got the 3 wins. A good offense for the O's on Wednesday. 5 runs, just 7 hits, but they were 5 doubles and 2 singles. 5 walks, 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position. The Orioles' 2 best hitters so far in this regular season continued to be Taylor Ward and Gunnar Henderson. Taylor Ward, he is the Orioles' starting left fielder and number 2 batter, went 4 for 5 with 2 RBI doubles, another double, and a single. Yeah, he had 3 doubles. His first RBI double was terrific. Ward in the Orioles' a 2-run third had a full count RBI double to left field to cut the Orioles' deficit to 2-1 despite having been down in the count at 1.02. Taylor Ward for this regular season now has an OPS of 1,038 and now has 9 doubles. Gunnar Henderson, he is the Orioles starting shortstop and number 1 batter, went 1 for 4 with a double and a walk. Henderson for this regular season now has an OPS of 890. The Orioles starting pitcher for this 5-3 win at the White Sox on Wednesday was Kyle Bradish. He allowed 3 runs, 2 earned in 5 innings. He did record 7 strikeouts. That was good, but he gave up 6 hits, which were a triple and 5 singles. He issued 3 walks. He threw a lot of pitches and a lot of balls as he, over his 5 innings, threw 96 pitches, just 54 strikes versus 42 balls. And he committed 2 errors on the same play, which came in Chicago's 1-run 5th, as he had a missed catch error in not catching the ball being thrown back to him by catcher Adley Rutschman off issuing a walk, and then Bradish committed a throwing error. This was quite the humiliation for Kyle Bradish. Here was what happened. Kevin Brown on Masson.
Runners will go on 3-2. Up and in for ball 4. So Bradish tried to execute, and the ball gets thrown away, and Mydroth is coming in to score. Whoa! Now Rutschman down to second, and Montgomery is safe there. Gunnar Henderson asks for a challenge potentially on the play at second, but the Orioles fall asleep. Bradish drops the throw back from Rutschman.
Yeah, what happened with Kyle Bradish right there was completely inexcusable. Bradish so far is not doing well. The 4-1 loss to the Minnesota Twins at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on March 28th. Bradish allowed 3 runs, 2 earned in 4 2/3 innings. The 5-4 loss at the Pittsburgh Pirates this past Friday, April 3rd. Bradish allowed 4 runs in 4 innings. And now we have what happened on Wednesday. Kyle Bradish for this regular season, 3 games, all starts, ERA of 5.27, whip of 1.68. But the Orioles relief pitching in this 5-3 win at the White Sox on Wednesday was really good. 4 Orioles relievers combined for 4 scoreless innings with 5 strikeouts. Tyler Wells tossed a scoreless and hitless bottom of the 6th despite issuing a leadoff walk and despite issuing a one-out hit by pitch. Grant Wolfram tossed a scoreless bottom of the 7th despite giving up a one-out single and despite issuing a one-out hit by pitch. Anthony Nunez tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th. And Rico Garcia tossed a scoreless and hitless bottom of the 9th with 2 swinging strikeouts for the save, despite issuing 2 walks. So O's manager Craig Albernaz had Garcia close out the game off the Orioles closer, Ryan Helsley, having pitched on 3 of the previous 4 days, including getting a save in each of the first 2 games of this series. And Garcia got the save in this game 3. Good win for the O's. Nice to see him get the sweep. We, during Craig Albernaz's post-game session with reporters on Wednesday evening, had this exchange between Orioles insider Rich Dubroff of BaltimoreBaseball.com and Albernaz.
3-game sweep. Are you happy with how the club is playing now? Yeah, I've been happy since the start of the season. It's a long season. It's a marathon. There's going to be ups and downs. No need to panic after a tough series in Pittsburgh. Our guys just keeping their head down and day one approach every single day. Show up to the field, continue to get better and compete. And like you said, we'll turn the page. It was a great series win, great sweep, off day, and back at it.
Yes, sir. No game for the O's on Thursday. Next up for them is a 6-game homestand beginning with a 3-game series against the San Francisco Giants at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Game 1 Friday night at 7:15. Shane Baz will be the Orioles starting pitcher. Game 2 Saturday night at 7:15. Chris Bassett will be the Orioles starting pitcher. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 1:35. Cade Povich will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And that'll do it for you and me for now, but there is more to come. Friday's show, episode 1300. We'll have much more on the Washington Commanders. Also on Friday's show, I'll talk Washington Wizards. The Wizards are home to the Chicago Bulls Thursday night at 7. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and I'll talk to you on Friday.
Alex, there's been a lot of speculation about whether or not this will be your final season. In your mind, have you made that decision?
Not yet. We're going to make a decision in the summer. I have to talk to my family, with Ted, with KP, Mac, and I have to make a decision in the summer.